because the world is so dynamic and because there's so much changing, nothing is static. So you constantly have to think about what's new that is going to make sense to this. And not just new for the sake of new, but new from the point of view of making this experience, this total combined brand experience, far greater and more fulfilling. So our real service, if you will, as an overarching concept, is really about curating this well, stitching it well, and giving the customer one cumulative experience which is greater than the sum of its parts. I think big brands in this space recognize that they are a once a year or maybe once in 2 year consumption category. Therefore, you have to think long term. Therefore, you have to build relationships. Therefore, you have to deliver value. This is even pre-travel. This is from, were you nice to speak to? Did you remember something about me from my last holiday? Did you do something thoughtful for me? Did you remember the seat I prefer? Did you remember that I'm allergic to mushrooms? Those are the little things that really make a difference, and I think a lot of people come back to us. We started something called Travel Quest, focused on curating educational tours for educational institutions. We started with schools. Today we do groups from the IITs and IIMs as well. So this is about combining fun and learning. The more evolved customer now not trying to cover 10 places in one holiday, but go deep. A very simple way to look at it, I think ATL softens the targets and BTL, wins the war.
Right.
Both have to work in tandem, but today on both Thomas Cook website and SOTC website, you will see a chatbot, Tasty on Thomas Cook and Easy on SOTC. It's a generative AI chatbot. It's fully trained on our products and offerings. So today you can have a conversation with Tasty or Easy, and it will pretty much ask you the relevant questions and even offer you a solution.
Hello and welcome to the HT Brand Leadership Series, a series of one-on-one interactions with top brand and marketing leaders who share their industry insights and strategies that have helped shape their stories. This series, hosted by Hindustan Times, offers a behind-the-scenes look at how leaders adjust their strategies for changing consumer behavior while leveraging media channels that improve customer relationships. We are delighted to have Mr. Abraham Alapatt on the show, a seasoned marketing leader with over 3 decades of experience. He currently serves as President and Group Head of Marketing, Service Quality, Value-Added Services and Innovation at Thomas Cook India and SOTC. Abraham has also led end-to-end brand transformation, combined marketing with service excellence, and infused innovation into travel and fintech experiences. Welcome on the show, Abraham.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Thank you for sharing your time with us. And I just want to start the conversation by asking you where you headed next.
I've got a couple of plans. One is Italy, and I'm hoping I make that happen. The second is to go to Vienna, to Austria, and spend some time there. So I'm choosing between the two.
So is it safe to conclude you're the chief travel officer at home?
Meaning that's a dangerous thing to commit, because I get stuck with the work of doing it because my wife assumes being in the business is easy for me to do it. But she's the toughest critic to get any itinerary passed. So I'm most nervous planning my own itinerary.
How about friends and relatives? Do they keep asking you for advice on which are the better destinations to go to?
Frequently. And so I do give a lot of my perspective. Some countries I've been to, so obviously then I give it a first-hand point of view as well. But I do provide a lot of inputs to my friends and family. Also ask the team if I haven't been. So
one thing that I would like to definitely ask, our audiences would like to ask is, which is one of your favorite destinations and where you would like to keep going on every year probably?
I must say this honestly, every holiday that I go to, pre-holiday, I think my earlier holiday was the best. And then I go to another country and then I fall in love again. And I think that's the beauty of travel, right? If the itinerary is well planned, and I try to do that, I push my team to plan experiences more than places to see. Because to me, what's important when I travel is the sense of connect with the local culture, people, understanding the history, getting a sense of food and drink and stuff like that. And understanding, more of the culture in that sense. So to that extent, there's so much to learn when you go to any country. Sitting on the outside, you have such a limited view actually. And to that extent, I think travel is the single biggest educator. So to the original question, I fall in love each time with the country I go to. So it's hard to, but I definitely say Greece, Portugal, and Japan.
Awesome. So I've picked up some cues on that, and I'll probably come back to you to understand an itinerary better.
Sure.
So let's get into the business side of the things on marketing and service experiences. Your current role spans marketing, service, value adds, and innovations. How do you weave all of these together? Because it's a large plate that you're managing right now.
I think, this is my perspective, and it served me well, which is to think about marketing from a brand philosophy point of view, which is really not to think about it as the transaction being the end, but only one part of the process. And when you think about it that way, and I drive a culture with my team to think about it that way, then it's about looking at the whole continuum of, from inspiration to demand generation to conversion to fulfillment to consumption to post-consumption experience to loyalty to repeat. So the moment you think about it that way, then a lot of this makes sense. Because you cannot think of this with the end state being the completion of a transaction and making profits from it. Because the moment you start doing that, and that's a very short-term, myopic way. And if you think about the brand Thomas Cook and the fact that it has been in existence for 180 odd years, its very philosophy is thinking long-term, right? It's about thinking, how can I outlive, the transaction philosophy. So this is about multi-generation servicing, and we're proud to say that we've endured this because we've been handed over from generation of customer to the next. And that's really coming from this core belief that as an aggregator of other people's services, the greatest value I can bring to a customer is really being able to offer a seamless, painless, trusting experience, right? And trust is a big part of this whole philosophy. And given that we're also in foreign exchange, there is a fair amount of credibility and robustness as well that has to be built in. So to your question, I think the moment you think about it as marketing, which is a traditional, advertising demand generation point of view, you think about service quality as the entire service experience, right through this process I spoke of, and you think about all the value addition and enhancement that you can bring to the table, then suddenly a lot of this makes sense. And innovation, of course, which is about, because the world is so dynamic and because there's so much changing, nothing is static. So you constantly have to think about what's new that is going to make sense to this. And not just new for the sake of new, but new from the point of view of making this experience, this total combined brand experience, far greater and more fulfilling.
I think when you compare to the travel industry along with any other industry, I think you don't end the relationship with the consumer moment you made the sale. I think that journey continues even after sales.
Absolutely.
Because you are part of their day-to-day itinerary, day-to-day holiday plans. Because at the end of the day, travel is also a very emotional experience for the consumer or for the traveler, and they would want to revisit it again probably in the next holiday, and that makes it even more difficult for you because you need to continue holding your influence over the consumer, because at the end of the day it is an emotional journey which will be captured on social media as well.
Absolutely. And I think, at the end of the day, if you think about this at its most basic, we are aggregating other people's services. So it's an airline ticket that's a different provider. It's a hotel that's a different provider.
Correct.
It's a sightseeing that's a separate provider. It's a taxi or a local car that's a separate provider. So our real service, if you will, as an overarching concept, is really about curating this well, stitching it well, and giving the customer one cumulative experience which is greater than the sum of its parts. Right? It's not that the customer can't do each of this himself or herself. We are doing it for them, but it's not just about doing it and saying, okay, listen, I'm going to do a markup and make some money on it. But it's about making sure that that family, which has put in a lot of time, effort, and very often a fair amount of money in this, gets the maximum that they can out of it. Because it's an emotional, we had this conversation before we started. Holiday is far more than, just some time off. At one level, it's relaxation. It's also about precious family time. It's about building relationships. It's about discovery. It's about us growing up as people, right? That's as big, to my mind, what travel does. So we feel that's a very responsible job. You have to be fairly responsible about it. And our constant pressure, we're not saying we're perfect, of course we slip up, but our constant endeavor is to get better at getting more value to the customer for every rupee that he pays.
It's interesting you spoke about marketing as a cumulative experience. Now you have two brands. One is Thomas Cook and the other is SOTC. So how does one look at the value proposition differently? Because you're selling two different brands at the same time, obviously catering to somewhat of a similar audience. So what is the differentiation that allows you to have a more meaningful conversation with the consumer?
So I think if you think about both these brands, and let me spend a minute talking about both their histories. Thomas Cook itself, pioneer of modern travel, pretty much created everything that you know of travel today. The first group travel, the first hotel coupon, the first traveler's check, you name it in travel, the things we take for granted, invented, created by Thomas Cook. So a global brand name, meaning everybody knows it. And if you look at SOTC, it's pretty much the Thomas Cook of India, meaning it's a 75, 76 years old brand, created for Indian outbound travelers, customized, if you will, from a service point of view to cater to a very unique Indian need when they traveled. And it was not just about food. It was about understanding Indians and the way they travel and tour managers that spoke local languages, high degree of local connect. So both these brands have grown in their own rights with very different histories. Thomas Cook India had a chance to acquire SOTC, as we did acquire a lot of other brands as well over years, from Koane Group as they exited the B2C space. And for us, it was a very powerful proposition because SOTC has its own band of very loyal customers, right? Now, a lot of brands, when they acquire another brand which is in the same space, typically they have one of two choices. One is to say, okay, can one brand fold into the other, and can you get the benefits of scale with one brand and only spending on that. The second is to say, hey, listen, these are two very compelling entities with brands that have been built and very loyal customers that go and travel generation after generation, year after year. And to the earlier point we made, these are businesses that have managed to survive and be profitable because of the trust, because of the fact that the repeat ratios are high, right? If you were to have to acquire new customers from ground zero every year, this would probably not be a very profitable business because the cost of acquisition is not cheap. So I think big brands in this space recognize that they are a once a year or maybe once in 2 year consumption category. Therefore, you have to think long term. Therefore, you have to build relationships. Therefore, you have to deliver value, because I can't literally afford to target you every day for the next 365 days till your next holiday. But what I can do is make sure that you think you got a great experience and you yourself come to me, at least the right of first refusal I must get the next time around. And again, these are intergenerational businesses and brands, right? They've been passed on. And that's a big responsibility as well.
You spoke about maintaining that relationship with your customer. So where do you draw the line between selling versus a product, and how does that philosophy shape your campaign?
See, our perspective is very clear. We are in the service industry. We are in the service business. Products are a means to an end, right? The product, in this case, an itinerary, is really just a piece of paper, or it may even just be something on your phone, right? But really where it comes to play is in the delivery of this set of services in a combined, seamless, delightful way. And that's really when the service part comes into play. And that's what you remember. You are never going to, you may remember an unusual hotel room or a, exceptional meal as an example. But I think the one thing that you should get from a combined experience from our point of view, and I think all service brands should aspire to it, which is that this is the best service provider for this kind of service, right? And that's a cumulative end effect. It's coming from bits and pieces from all these little delightful experiences along the way. And this is even pre-travel. This is from, were you nice to speak to? Did you remember something about me from my last holiday? Did you do something thoughtful for me? Did you remember the seat I prefer? Did you remember that I'm allergic to mushrooms? Those are the little things that really make a difference, and I think a lot of people come back to us for.
Fair enough. Can I quiz you a little more on some of the innovations that you've done on marketing, wherein you can share some recent example where you've probably used a customer insight, the instances that you mentioned, and that has become a very tangible service or product which allowed you to have a very strong conversation with your audiences.
Absolutely. So I said, given that this category is about discovery and discovery at a global scale, each country, culture, etc. At the product level, meaning literally every day is a discovery, because travel is such a dynamic sector and there's so much happening in every country as each country tries to improve its offering from a tourist experience point of view. You have to innovate and sort of keep in touch with what those countries are offering and what's new and different, because this is a very competitive market. If everybody's got the same standard product and you're a discerning customer, you're pushing me saying, what else can I do? I have to have something up my sleeve. I have to have something new. So that's one part, which is a constant effort to improve product offering in that sense. The second is, and part of our job is to think about new segments or opportunities that are emerging. So for example, a few years ago, we started something called Travel Quest, focused on curating educational tours for educational institutions. We started with schools. Today we do groups from the IITs and IIMs as well. So this is about combining fun and learning.
Yeah.
So, unique experiences that only we can possibly curate. If you're an engineer, to look at BMW's production facility and stuff like that, right? Kids going to NASA, of course, is common, but, kids getting an understanding of Google and visiting their campus and so on. So that's one part. That's a business that's literally been created out of this idea that schools especially were so disorganized in terms of organizing their excursions. Very often it was not a dependable provider. You imagine sending your precious only child on a holiday that's been curated by a non-professional in that sense. So we saw an opportunity there, we created that business. Second, we've created a gift card because we realized it was very interesting, because travel or a holiday is a great idea as a gift, but there's no actually friendly way to gift it. So we actually created a gift card where you can actually gift it and transfer it, and it's redeemable online, offline, and so on. So the multiple product offerings, even category offerings that have come up as a result. In fact, we were the first to create the, travel now, pay later, pay via EMIs, zero cost EMI, especially coming out of the pandemic. Those things really helped us and some of them are driven by pressure. As I said, pandemic, we had zero revenue. We had to get the first early customers to take the risk to travel, and we knew they'll be young people, and they'll be young people with no income, probably, right? Or a little bit more careful with the money. So how do you create a proposition that says, hey, listen, no interest, you travel now and you pay over 3-6 month installments, and that sort of got the first set of customers going. So one can be the opportunity to grow, two can be a pressure-led opportunity like I spoke of. It's about looking at how you can.
It's very clear that you've called out so many product offerings in just one question, because if you look at the industry today, currency, visa support, concierge, these are all supposed to be differentiation, but actually it's become hygiene. So how do you align your value-added services with your brand promise in the marketing? Because you won't call out all of this immediately. I think it's a process that one customer has to go through to realize so much more I'm able to get from.
Absolutely. And I think that's a very smart question, because it actually connects some of the earlier questions as well, right? One is this whole idea of what we're doing is actually selling an entire experience, cumulative experience, not a transaction. Two is the fact that finally, really the value we bring to the customer is the fact that it's been a seamless, smooth experience, right? They have not had to worry about anything once they came to us. And that's really the positioning we want. We want customers, when they think of taking a break, or even business travel in the sake of business travel, or MICE in the case of incentives, is to really say, listen, I can just go to these guys and they'll take care of everything, and everything will be good, right? Now, that's a beautiful end state. because then it becomes our responsibility as a curator. It's like going to a restaurant and saying, hey, listen, can I leave the chef to decide what I'm going to eat, right? I want to be that chef for that holiday, right? I want to be the person who you trust blindly, if in an ideal situation, to say, listen, I trust you to give me the best connectivity, the best hotels for my budget, the best itinerary for the time that I have and the budget and my interests, and the best, foreign exchange services, seamless experience, whether it's card or cash, visa should happen smoothly, and travel insurance should happen smoothly, and so on and so forth. Concierge if I want it, wheelchair assistance if I need it, and so on. And that's really our job. And that's really where I think we add superior value. Because a lot of our competitors do a very big standalone services. But I think what a lot of people want, especially when they're traveling with family, is not to be stressed out about every small thing on a holiday. Look at the irony of it at one level. You go on a holiday to take a break. And if you have to worry about every small thing after booking this holiday, then to me, this is counterproductive, right? Why are you going on the holiday if you have to be stressed out? So I think the idea is simply buy it, shut it, and forget it, to borrow a...
So true. I wanted to also talk about this piece of innovation wherein how do you balance novelty with reliability in a trust-centric category like travel? Because at the end of the day, you're winning the trust of the consumer, who will probably come back to you more often than not. So how do you manage to balance this novelty aspect?
See, I think one has to, at one level, we think we have to separate the fad from the trend. We have to look at things from a newness we think about newness and innovation. It's not just about, is this novel or what shall I say, it's what everybody's talking about now, which could be a fad, versus something that's probably a little bit more enduring. And what we try to do is to try to build something that's a little bit more enduring and linked to a maybe slightly deeper customer need, insight, etc. Right? For example, one of the things we've realized is that this whole shift from seeing places to doing things, right? And doing things that are more local, more culturally relevant to the place you went to. This is also a representation of the generational shift.
Yes.
Older customers, I'd even argue my generation, going abroad itself was a big thing, right? Just seeing some of these things was in itself a novelty. Taking a picture, therefore, it was enough to say I went there. That was enough. That was flaunt value. This generation, the generation, which effectively my kid generation, is not at all of that mindset. To them, this is birthright, right? Traveling abroad is birthright. They're global citizens in their mind. They're digital natives. To them, going here is not enough. Going here and doing something cool and different that my friends haven't done or haven't shared before makes me cooler and, more with it. So I think that whole shift of seeing to doing is something that we really are invested in, what we call experiential travel. And that's a very broad this thing. So, for example, you're seeing the more evolved customer now not trying to cover 10 places in one holiday, but go deep. So instead of going wide, they go deep. And that really means you have to understand that destination well. You have to be able to drill down into where do the locals drink, what do the locals eat, maybe learn a few words, those kind of things, right? And those kind of experiences curating then becomes the next one.
Those are the ones that make
great memories. Yeah, absolutely.
You spoke about experiential. I want to understand that piece as well, wherein your activation approach blends both ATL and BTL. Now, what's your philosophy behind combining mass media with localized outreach to engage your audiences? How do you, what is your philosophy or your strategy when it comes to this?
Very vivid example, and maybe a bit over dramatic if you will, but if you think about it like a war situation, I think ATL's doing what the Air Force does, which is to go in early and weaken the enemy, right? And what BTL does is really what the army does, which is to conquer land, right? And conquer the last mile. So, a very simple way to look at it, I think ATL softens the targets and BTL, wins the war.
Right.
Both have to work in tandem to that extent. You have to be clear about, and the good thing to the earlier conversation we had as well is, with a lot of what we have today with new media and especially in the digital frontier, is that you're able to very carefully target a set of customers, whether it's physically geo-targeting them or demographically or even behaviorally with cohorts, and then being able to create an offering, if you will, at the last mile. So our philosophy is really try to combine that in a way that makes sense. So you get the scale with ATL and you get because this is not a impulse buy. This is a conversation sale buy. So you have to have that opportunity to have a conversation to convert.
This brings me to the next point of measuring success. When you do a live event, how are you measuring success? Because at the end of the day, there are two things going to happen. One is obviously there's going to be proximity to the brand, wherein the consumer will understand more about you. And second is the conversion aspect. So how do you weigh in? How do you measure success? Because at the end of the day, a touch point is a good touch point.
So to my mind, the way we look at it is, and we have fairly well invested in both B2B and B2C businesses. So in the B2B businesses, I feel smaller, targeted, intimate conversation events help, because it helps me have a genuine, deeper conversation and build a relationship of some meaning. What we're definitely not in is the logo as part of a panel, branding everywhere, just the logo kind of thing. What we really want is the opportunity to talk and be on at a forum where we can actually build that equity, because B2B relationships are really built on that foundation. At the B2C level, it's about scale. So then it's about mass visibility and also the opportunity to reach as many people as we can, where the cost per lead, if you will, is not too expensive. So basically two different philosophies for.
Fair enough. If a young marketer today wants to look at BTL activation and comes to you for advice, does that foundation still remain the same, wherein you will focus on intimacy and more time spent with the consumer, or you would probably look at volume, still ask him or her to experiment with volume?
So to me, it's what you think about what the likely output of that is going to be, right? There are some things where you just want to be seen because it's a good place to be seen. So for example, if it was a top level discussion on travel policy for India, or the government of India and so on, we'd probably want to be visible because it is about positioning ourselves as leaders as well. But if you leave that aside, I think one is about high value customers like the B2B customers or HNIs, where we know the universe is finite and we are getting a chance in a more intimate thing. That's the only way you can reach out to those kind of people. So it makes sense, right? If I were to look at it as regular B2C customers, I'd look at scale. I'd look at scale because that gives me the opportunity to generate something out of it.
That brings us to the next piece, which is data and personalization, wherein you are already bridging services and marketing. How do you use customer data? Do you focus on personalized experiences, or you prefer to have a direct communication channel with them?
You really have to balance it, especially with the data protection, guidelines and rules that are in place. We are very conscious that where we have a direct relationship with our sellers, we obviously leverage that without compromising privacy. From a mass and marketing standpoint, we are very conscious that we have to balance the need for scale, which is one size fits all, shoot out an email to everybody kind of messaging, to trying to make it relevant. Because we're conscious today that the problem marketers have, and on the other side the customers have, is an overload of promotions, right?
Information promotion. Yes.
Today you open your eyes to any media, whether it's on your mobile or your TV or whatever, it's an overload. So today customers are filtering, and very often they are force shutting, right? whether it's uninstalling an app or blocking a caller or whatever. Unsubscribing. And the platforms themselves are also helping you. Like if you look at Google today, you've got your main inbox, you've got promotions, you've got social, and so on. So today, what a few years ago was just random emailer would go to everybody. Today, we're very conscious that if the receiver is not showing the right signals, you'll quickly get relegated to promotions or even spam, right? And that's important not to do. So how do you balance that relevant offering so the customer still sees the value in maybe opening a couple of emails, which is enough for Google to say, okay, I should still not put this in the the spam or this thing number. So I'm just giving you one example, but I think the key therefore is to try to understand. If you have a personal connect, have a conversation. If not, think about it logically, right? You've taken a domestic holiday this year. Can I interest you in maybe a Sri Lanka or a Bhutan or a Vietnam or something which is probably in the same price range, but is a little bit more aspirational, right? Or age-wise, I say, okay, I know you just got married. Can I just pitch you something which is more romantic? So it's basically about trying to balance that personalization piece with what data I know, or looking at it logically and saying, okay, these 200 people all took a domestic holiday last year, but maybe I've got a good Vietnam offer, maybe they would be interested, right? I don't know which of those 200 are going to be, but it's a relevant offering to them.
Clearly, you have enough data which allows you to make those tactical decisions. So here is where an AI and automation probably comes into play. What has worked for you and what has surprised you? Can you share some highlights?
Personally, and even as a company, we are very excited about AI as a frontier, right? At one level, I've heard some conversations and had some peers talk about, AI is a threat and it's creating itineraries and what's our role kind of thing. I see it as a fantastic opportunity because two things. One, without criticizing AI, which is still a relatively nascent frontier in that sense, some of the itineraries are great because it sort of collates everything that you need to see in, let's say, a country like Spain that you want to go to, but it's not really logically plotted out or end-to-end plan. So you still need somebody to execute or, do the nuts and bolts of it. So I'm saying, hey, listen, earlier if I spent a lot of time planning an itinerary, here is actually pretty much a customer coming to me and saying, hey, listen, can you execute this for me? And I then just say, hey, tweak this, this is not practical, add this, drop this, etc. It's 50% of my work done, which is good. It's good for both. The second is we ourselves are investing in AI, in a big way. So today on both Thomas Cook website and SOTC website, you'll see a chatbot, Tacy on Thomas Cook and Easy on SOTC. It's a generative AI chatbot. It's fully trained on our products and offerings. So today you can have a conversation with Tacy or Easy, and it will pretty much ask you the relevant questions and even offer you a solution, right? And only transfer you to a seller once you've made up your mind. And this makes a lot of sense to a set of customers who really don't want to talk to people. A lot of young people today don't want people to call them, don't want to talk. They'd ideally like to chat, right? So we made it almost WhatsApp kind of UI, but the chatbot will help. And the same AI engine will help an agent on our side when the customer is calling, pull up the right products again. So it's listening to the conversation, it's minuting the conversation at one level, it's also making suggestions to the agent so he can be faster and more efficient. Because we're dealing with an Amazon generation, and a generation that wants, while I'm on the phone, tell me what it's going to cost, right? And so this is real time helping the agent as well. On the business travel side, we've partnered with an IT company to have an agentic AI solution that actually can answer calls, book your tickets, etc. It's a 24-hour solution. So it can actually handle a business travel customer who has an emergency problem. He just calls in and the AI talks in whatever language he wants and actually handles those. So we are very excited about what this means.
Does AI also help you to make the right marketing decisions? When I say marketing decisions, also winning the trust of the customer, is it helping you in those facets as well?
I can't honestly say yes, but see, AI is actually working at the back of so many media platforms today. So we think about Google Maps or even search, right? There's AI already operating. So when I find it funny when a lot of people say I don't use AI, I just feel that they don't know they're using AI yet, right? So today when you just type a search, anything in the search bar, the top result is actually an AI generated summary, right? And so today AI is powering so many tools and applications that we use. So to my mind, the AI piece is already working in terms of algorithms, figuring out how to be more efficient to deliver a marketer's plans. So what we have not yet reached a stage where we are using AI to deliver a plan, but I think that day is not far.
The reason I asked that is because usually what you mentioned that when you do a search and there's an AI generated
summary
result, that's not 100% accurate.
It's not, and you don't know what source it's coming from.
Yeah, because I as a search, as somebody who's searching for content, would want to know where is the source of all this information.
Correct.
Until it's not sourced correctly, because that's when the credibility and that's where a credible entity makes more
Absolutely,
sense.
completely agree.
Hence, I was checking on that piece where how do you, because in you when you share an itinerary, it'll hold more weight than probably some AI is sharing that itinerary.
Yeah, correct. So I think a lot of it will depend on how the large-scale AI models that customers use, including Google and Bing and all that, at the front end, and maybe even a WhatsApp AI, is really going to look at their monetization model. Because if they focus on giving quality content for, let's say, a holiday itinerary for a customer traveling from India, and they say, okay, Thomas Cook's a trusted name, so let me give a suggestion from Thomas Cook more credibility than a random, let's say, Wikipedia entry.
Yes.
Right? That's really long term for them, and I hope that's the way it goes, because that's the way it should be. What shouldn't happen is provider A is paying a little bit more, and that takes precedence because of that rather than credibility. I think in the long run that will hurt, but I do think discerning customers are conscious of the fact that, which is why you see a lot more brand searches for brands like us in our category rather than just random searches.
I'll talk about more on trust. I want to spend some more time on trust because this category is the foundation is trust. So when it comes to your marketing process or your principles, do you apply and ensure some kind of consistency when it comes to brand experience, or you evolve as you go through and understand the customer better? Because at the end of the day, there has to be some kind of takeaway for the user also at some point. The customer has to have, this is something that I keep coming back to Thomas Cook for.
I think the only way to do that is to get consistently better. To use your word about consistency, I think, consistency is just saying I'm going to be at the same level always and predictable in that sense. But the point is, you got a set of customers and this generation more than the generation before, and for sure the next generation is going to be even more demanding. So consistency is never a fixed format game, right? The bar is always going to be up. So the key is really the only thing you can survive in an environment like this is to constantly endeavor and get consistently better with each experience, hopefully, in more times than not. Of course, things will fail here and there, but by and large, people must get a sense that these guys have the heart and mind in the right place and are trying to get better each time. And I think that's the only way.
So it's if I go back to that analogy of a chef, I think it's his or her secret recipe.
Do I consistently have a good meal with this restaurant, right? I'll keep going back. Yeah, because meaning when all else fails, when all the promotions and the offers and the discounts fade away, you are finally going there because you want good food, right? And you'll tend to repeat where you can count on good food.
Yeah, it's also safe to say now that the Indian consumer is a more value-conscious consumer than a price-sensitive consumer.
Absolutely. And we've always maintained that, very honestly, even from the early days when in every forum I was asked, how do you deal with a customer who's so price-sensitive? I say that, frankly, everybody around the world is price-sensitive. This is a complete misinterpretation that Indians are unusual in that they are as price-conscious as they are. Everybody is. The price itself may vary, but the fact that you're conscious of the value you're getting for the price you're paying is a universal phenomenon. And the point of the critical mass theory point is really where you consistently deliver more value than your peers for the money being invested. It's not about cheap because, and we consciously have stayed out of products or offerings where it's only about the product offering is exactly the same. The service offering therefore is bare bones, and therefore it's only about discounting. We have stayed out of sometimes even destinations like that, simply because it's a zero-sum game. We have no room for differentiation. The customer is beating you down to the last rupee, but at the same time they want superior service. Now, that's it doesn't make sense, right? Giving you better service is going to cost you a little bit more, but if you're not willing to pay, then I don't want to play.
What happens when you scale up very rapidly, when you taste success quickly, then that personal experience or the personalization experience also starts fading away. Then it becomes more transactional. So is there a way to keep consistently personalizing the experience for the consumer and also growing rapidly? So how are you building both those worlds together?
No, that's a absolutely brilliant question. I think that's the key, because if you think about our category and our brand and how we've grown both Thomas Cook and SOTC, it's really been on the back of relationships and personalization, right? And that's why generations have trusted us. So what is key is not to lose that core. What we are doing therefore with the tools that we spoke of, the AI tools that we spoke of. So we've got a tool on our website that allows you to customize a holiday in like 10-15 minutes. I talked about the AI chatbots that literally on the fly you can create a holiday and book it as well. So, and the fact that we are empowering our frontline salespeople to do it, including with voice bots, is how do I take the single individual serving 10 people today and enable them with the same level of personalization to serve 100, right? These tools can help him or her do it. Without the tools, they're going to be constrained with time and the nuts and bolts of getting it done. But with these tools, and that's really why I'm so excited about what AI does. It can take a lot of data and literally slice and dice and serve it to you in the form you want and make it easy for you to send to customers and so on, rather than you having to cut and paste and create an itinerary and links and do all the painstaking work that normally would have been very manual, right? So I think that's really how we are looking at it. How do you keep that imprint of personalization and be able to expand it? Because that's the only way this will economically allow for itself. Because if you were to scale up your costs at the same rate as this thing, you're never really going to grow from a financial point.
Understood. You've spoken so strongly about keeping the consumer first. Is this something that we can say you learned over your early years at Ogilvy that still helps you pivot your strategy today?
I think I've been very fortunate to work with quite a few, fantastic organizations and people as well. And I often attribute a couple of philosophies, and I'll try to keep it short. One is my first boss, the gentleman is no more, but he had a very crisp statement that he used to often admonish us with. Because as young people, one of the things you often, when you mess up, and when young people, you often mess up, his standard, so he'll ask you what happened, and you'd say, I thought. You'd start, this was the thing, but it wasn't obviously, that's why you messed up. And he said, never think no. So his philosophy was either you know or you don't know. This think was something that is not allowed. So that's one thing, one philosophy I maintain, which is about try to understand the lay of the land before you take a decision. And I think Ogilvy, the single big lesson that I think everybody who's been through the University of Ogilvy, if you will, learns is this whole idea of brand stewardship. That the brand is the center of it, it outlives all of us. How do you build a brand that endures? And from that philosophy comes this whole idea of, brands are built by cumulative experiences, every little thing adds to it or detracts from it. So you are responsible for the entire set of experiences around a brand. And when you become a marketer or a brand custodian, you have to think about everything around it, not just the advertising part of it, which is the easy part, actually, relatively easy part, and the more glamorous part of it. But the real painstaking work of making sure that every call is answered and they're trained and so on and so forth, all of that is really what, I think that's a very foundational lesson for marketers.
very well explained, and thank you for that. I wanted to sum it up by asking you, if you have to look ahead, which frontier, be it experiential marketing or tech-enabled MarTech or innovation and travel, what excites you for the next few years?
I think tech enablement is to me the most exciting part. I'm more excited by the fact that everything, and it's not just linked to the industry I work in now, which is travel, but if you think about how tech is going to influence or is already influencing everything that we do, there is a dark side, of course. But to me, the positive potential of how technology and experiences can change and make our lives easier and more fulfilling, faster. And you look at the speed at which we adopt some things and it becomes so quickly part of our lives. For example, I'm directionally challenged, a big weakness. So I could get lost in a building, right? So to me, Google Maps is like, meaning I can't leave home without it, literally. So I'm saying, so today, something like Google Maps that till a few years ago we didn't even think was possible is now so much a part of our daily lives, right? So I think that pace will continue, and I think technology will become an ally. I'm most excited by that potential.
Amazing. Abraham, thank you so much for joining us.
My
I
pleasure.
hope you keep spinning the globe and leading more consumers and more audiences to their favorite destinations. I
Thank
wish
you.
all
I
the
look
best.
forward to that. And of course, please travel with Thomas Cook SOTC.
Yes, why not? Absolutely. One final question for our audiences on Hindustan Times. We just wanted to know, how was it partnering with Hindustan Times in your past campaigns, and if any that stood out for you?
I think, again, speaking of brands and enduring brands, Hindustan Times again is one of those iconic brands that has endured decades and generations. And that's again rooted from trust and stability and genuine quality reporting and media, responsible media, if you will, in a world which is full of noise and clutter otherwise. So I think our natural gravity is to brands like those that resonate with our philosophy of long-term and enduring. And I think your teams have been delightful, whether it's traditional print or new media partners, digital as well. So we look forward to a lot more and working together. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Likewise, and looking forward to your next campaign.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Abhishek. Pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Abraham, for a compelling look into how holistic marketing anchored in service excellence and innovation can drive brand relevance. Your integrated approach offers invaluable insights for marketers in any industry aiming to build truly memorable customer experiences. That's a wrap on this episode of the HT Brand Leadership Series. Stay tuned for more such conversation with India's top brand and marketing leaders.